Hello, and welcome to the Inovia Conversation. I'm Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Pergelski.
And Jeff, today we have a special guest, one of our most famous, popular ISVs of all time.
Who do we have, Steve?
Well, what's that song say? Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Jet. Who sings that song? I can't remember. Is that Steve Miller Band?
Steve, that's way before my time.
We have Aaron with us. Aaron from Jet Global. Aaron, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Good to meet you guys. And I believe that's Paul McCartney and Wings.
It is
with
Paul
Jet.
McCartney Wings. Yes, it is. My bad.
He's already Aaron has already brought a level of accountability to this podcast that we have not seen before. So we're off to a great start.
And I think you have a couple decades on him, Jeff, so that I'm too young thing doesn't work. But anyway, we'll keep that for another time. So Aaron, we're excited to have you on. I know we do a lot with you and your team on. A lot of our customers use Jet, so we're excited to have you on the podcast. So maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you ended up at Jet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so really my interest in Jet, the reporting and analytics solutions we provide to Dynamics users, it came about. I studied finance when I was attending university. It was something where when I was growing up I grew up on a farm out in Eastern Oregon, and wanted to run a business, same idea like my dad did. And it was pretty clear, if you want to run a business, the most important thing you need to understand is the financial picture. That's how you understand how an organization is running, where the efficiencies are, how you can improve things. And so studied finance, really enjoyed getting into that, learning, how businesses live and breathe this data and utilize it. And then gave a little run at banking, but ultimately found that software was really compelling to me, and jumped from a couple different startups here at the Portland startup community, and ultimately ended up at Jet because I saw they had a fantastic product that fit really well for the customer base. And they also have a ton of great people. I've learned so much here, tons of great resources, and it's been a really good time so far. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And I've been learning for the last 4 years, working with existing customers first, and then now working with new customers and great partners like you guys over at Inovia. And yeah, it's been quite a ride. Definitely enjoying the Dynamics community, though.
Yeah, there's quite a few different versions of Dynamics, right? I know there's Microsoft tells us there's probably around 10 to 15,000 companies in the U.S. that use Jet, and when I was doing some research on you guys, you have over 14,000 companies that use Jet Global. I was like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and it's really all shapes and sizes too. I mean, we'll have small mom and pop shops up to large enterprise organizations like Kodak or Talking Rain. So it's pretty flexible too. And the great thing is, as you were saying, we have since we've been in the dynamic space since 2002 and really just focused on customizing our tools for those systems. We have specific financial functions and tools to help make it easier if you're on GP, if you're on Nav, if you're on Business Central, and then on the enterprise side, even AX and supply chain, finance and supply chain. So every system, I mean, even folks on SL, we'll still have you covered if you're over there as well.
Well, very cool. And Jeff does a lot of our pre-sale stuff, and so I get asked, "Hey, Steve, you want to demo stuff?" And I said, "Sure, let me get a hold of Jeff." And so a lot of your stuff comes out of a box. So when you're using a Jet product, is it complex, or is it easy to assemble, to connect to? Or so maybe you could tell people that I'm sure most of our listeners are using it, but they're thinking about using one of your offerings. Is it a big deal to get up and running, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, the reporting tool, it's really straightforward, pretty clean installation. It bolts directly inside of Excel. So we're already going to put the tool and the data where you want to access it. And then it's really just about configuring the connection to the data source, because we'll read in whatever permissions and security you have in place with that. And then you're off to the races. And We're also going to help. There's pre-built sample reports for each of the different systems that, usually you just jump in and update one column of account numbers to tie it to your chart of accounts. And those reports are ready to go. You can refresh them when needed, start sending them out to users. So yeah, for reports, we are able to get users accessing their data within a matter of hours.
Oh, well, very cool. Because most people are familiar with Jet Reports.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you guys have Jet Reports, you have Jet Analytics, you got Jet Budgets, you got Jet Gumbo, you got Jet, I'm sorry.
We do have Jet Coffee.
What's that?
We do have Jet Coffee. I can send you a bag.
Very nice. And so what tell us about the offerings that you support and the ones that you see most of your or our customers and your customers utilize.
Yeah, and certainly, Jet Reports is going to be the kind of bread and butter. That's what most organizations are going to turn to first, in particular with their financials, being able to structure that data they want to. For Nav and BC folks, it's usually about being able to effectively break those out across those dimensions, subdivide the data, and also make sure you're able to get in the hands of those users and distribute that. And so we see Jet Reports as sort of the initial landing point for a lot of folks, but demand is also turning towards Jet Analytics and business intelligence. And I think part of that's because folks are looking at tools like Power BI, which is really popular in the dynamic space right now, and they want to get into data visualization. But it's also a matter where people have other systems outside of their ERP. Maybe they're coming from some legacy systems, and they have their technology stack spread out a little bit. A lot of these other ERPs aren't like Business Central, where you can attach all your modules right within that and run so much of your business out of that ERP. Some of those older systems, they have separate point of sales, warehousing systems, inventory. And so, for those users, it becomes a conversation of like, well, how can I get all my data to speak together? How can I report against all of this information? And that's where we see users really grabbing onto the business intelligence solution. It's something where, because we're Dynamics focused, again, we actually have a predefined data warehouse and cubes available for a lot of Dynamics users. And so we pair that with data warehouse automation to speed up the time to deployment. And so it creates an offering for Dynamics users where they can get a BI implementation stood up and running a lot quicker, less expensively, and at lower risk, because it's not a data model that they're building from the ground up. They're using something that hundreds of users are already having success with that in the field. And then it's really about tailoring that to their organization. What KPIs are you tracking? What business processes do we need to prioritize in your reporting and analytics? And so those are definitely the two that I think we're seeing the most demand on. And then the budget piece comes in with a way to be able to support that, help users who have a more Excel-based budgeting process. Maybe they're already using Jet Reports. It integrates real nicely with the reporting tool and basically helps streamline all the budgeting process so that users can submit numbers, get approvals, review what people submitted, all from a web portal that manages all those different Excel worksheets and ties everything to the GL so it's seamless to report after the fact. I'd say the budgeting tool is something that we've definitely seen some more demand with lately, but again, the reporting and analytics, especially with the changing economic conditions, it's just so important for users to be able to get that live data when and how they need it.
I know, one of the things when I came over, it seemed like Nav has a great financial suite, but as far as the reports and it seems like a lot of people, like you said, they use Excel, export to the Excel and use Jet Reports for a lot of reporting. So if, one of the things that I'm hearing, and I know, Jeff, you can add to this, is, the analytical piece, right? It's one thing to take a look at the reports, but it's another thing to really bring all that data together in one place. And so everybody in your organization can really see it and then, basically have a better understanding how to structure their data and, really just use that data to sell more product. So if somebody's using Jet Reports and wants to go to Jet Analytics, is that more of an upgrade or is that another piece that's added to it?
Yeah, it's definitely an upgrade. So you're gonna keep all the Jet Reports functionality you already have with that. And for a lot of users, where that comes into play is they're still going to want some of their live financials to be straight out of the ERP. Maybe your trial balance or what have you. You want to make sure that data is up to the minute. But for everything else, what we're going to do is we have a data warehouse in Cubes that we deploy. That would employ onto the customers, onto their technology. We don't host anything, so it's something where they could deploy it to Azure. They could deploy it on-prem. There's a lot of options on how they want to go about doing that. Jet's fully supported in the cloud, so either way they want to approach that. But unlike Jet Reports, where it's plug and play, there's a bit of a conversation and implementation around building out that data model. And so we like to sit down with those teams, those generalist teams who are going to be using these tools, and actually break it up into business processes when we're planning out the implementation and going about mapping this out. So maybe phase one is working on your GL data. What are your KPIs and metrics you're looking for? What are the deliverables we need to build? And then we can build in any kind of custom logic, building calculations and metrics. Maybe they have multi-currency considerations they want to account for in the back end. Maybe they have company consolidations and they want to just manage that entirely within the data warehouse. There's ways we can set up that logic so users get the data they need at the end. The data is optimized for reporting. And they'll basically work that out with each different process. So maybe phase one is your GL data. Phase two is sales. We're going to pull in that CRM data, make sure that's communicating with your Nav or Business Central data. And then the whole idea is, since those teams who are going to be using the product are the ones involved in the implementation, they're going to have a lot better adoption with it as well, because all those endpoints they're looking for or that they're going to get, it's what they were telling the BI team, this is what we need. These are how we like to visualize this data, how we like to manage these calculations, and that's what gets built in. So users are ready to use the data once it's put together.
My turn to ask a question, Steve. I'm as a pre-sales guy, I get a lot of questions about the specific reporting capabilities of Business Central now, and as you mentioned, we using Jet gives them the ability to model their data in a tool that everyone is familiar with, being Microsoft Excel. But a classic question I get is, well, what about Power BI? How does how does that fit in with Jet? Because I know in the past we used to think of it as Jet Reports or Power BI. But I've in some situations we have found that it could be Jet Reports and Power BI. So how does Jet Reports stack up, I guess, against Power BI, and how can they be leveraged together?
I grabbed a different headset. Yeah, great question. Definitely one I hear a lot too, and it's really less about Jet versus Power BI, but more Jet Analytics and Power BI. End of the day, Power BI, it's a fantastic data visualization tool. I mean, as you all know, tons of bells and whistles, all these great different visualizations, overlay customers on a map, be able to break out your data across trends. And then, they even have some of those fun, silly ones. Like, I know we had a BI dashboard at our office that tracked everyone's performance, and they were all sharks in a fishbowl or fish in a fishbowl. And, so Power BI does a lot of fun stuff, but a lot of folks who haven't necessarily seen what's going on behind the back, and they may think that it's a BI tool in the sense that it models data. And that's really where Jet Analytics comes into play. If you've connected Power BI direct to your database, you got to go through, you see all your tables, you got to select which ones you want to pull into that particular data visualization. You have to key together any common relationships between tables, essentially load and transform that data before you can utilize it in Power BI. Whereas with Jet Analytics, the whole idea is that we're going to give you that data across your full technology stack in two ways primarily. One is the data warehouse, where we're simplifying the data model into a more
specific set of tables and fields. But the other piece is Olap Cubes, and these are ways where you can. I like to think of it as almost like a Rubik's Cube with your data, where you can just twist and turn and look at data from any different perspective you want to. And that's because with those cubes, every value is pre-calculated in every combination possible. So if you want to hook Power BI up to that, or even use pivot tables off of those inside of Excel or Jet, the data is optimized for reporting in a way where a lot of times a user can just say, I want to check sales, and I want to see that by item category. Just tying those two data points together with the cube, you now have a extensive list of all your item sales broken out by those categories. You can then you can start tying dates to that. You can start looking at trends over time, and it's just a really intuitive way to utilize the data because you're working with the real world outputs. And so something like Power BI with that, you sit on top of the cubes, and pretty much any visual is a matter of pick which visual you want, tie it to a measure, tie it to a dimension, and you have your visual. So we love Power BI. Works great with Jet Analytics using the cubes.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was my tough question, Steve. Should we get to the fun questions, or do we have to keep our focus here, business related?
You're asking me to focus? Jeff, I'm in sales. I got ADD, but anyway, yeah. But I think on what Jeff said, because it's because we're getting a lot of questions about Power BI, and so I know in the previous versions of Nav it came with Jet, correct? The freemium version. Yeah.
There was Jet Basics with those, and we did have a free tool for a little while with Business Central actually as well. Or a more pared down version anyway. There's a Jet Reports Financials that was actually the first reporting tool on AppSource. That worked for a little while, but ultimately we found it was something where users they wanted all the data. It wasn't bringing people to the level of satisfaction that we like to see, that people can get out of the full version. And so it was something that we ultimately moved away from, but there's always consideration about adding trying to add some sort of more simplified or free version. It's just the question is it providing enough value to be worth it for that customer? Are we providing enough functionality with it?
Because I know, and speaking with our account managers, we have some accounts that maybe only have a couple of users, and we have some accounts that have hundreds of users, and you have price points to meet that. So maybe you can kind of walk through if it's maybe a startup company that wants just a few users to utilize it versus a large company that wants to get a lot of users on there. I mean, I'm assuming the cost is different for each of those type of customers. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, our pricing, we try to keep it very straightforward, but also give options for users. So you'll find, perpetual licensing like was very popular for GP and Nav, but we also have both monthly and annual subscription options. And so there's a lot of different ways where you can set up the license. If you want to align with your ERP, we're going to be able to enable that. And the whole idea is we're going to give you a base package to start with, your connection to your Dynamics database, start you out with one report designer, and then 5 viewers who are able to choose which reports they want to refresh. They can filter on that data. If they want to filter by dimension, filter by date ranges, they're going to be able to drill into that information so they get into that transactional detail. And then additional users, both designers and viewers, can just be added a la carte as needed. But users can get started on Jet Reports for as low as $270 a month, and there's no strings or terms or conditions around that. We have, as you mentioned, we have over 15,000 customers in Dynamics. We know it works, and so we trust that those customers are going to find value in it. So we don't feel any need to put together any term or contract length around it. And so that's the best entry point. And then beyond that, we do have, again, those perpetual prices as well. I'd say for the reporting, most users or organizations are going to find a package under 10,000 for their organization. And then once you get into the analytics piece, the conversation can broaden a little bit there, where it's, there's a conversation about implementation. Is that something your team is going to do some of? Is that something you're going to lean on us, or is that something, even the Innovia team is going to drive? And so the conversation can be a little broader there. You're probably looking more in the 20 to 30 to 40 range with a business intelligence, Jet Analytics solution and implementation. So that's kind of the range. Hopefully I answered that well enough to give some idea for customers where they may fit in there.
Well, that is very helpful, because I know when COVID first hit, when things slowed down for us, we had how many people, Jeff, from our delivery folks that went through some jet training? About a dozen, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yep.
And we have a lot of, when people ask us about Jet, we're like, yeah, we have quite a few of our staff that really know the product, and so that was very helpful. And so it sounds like with the Microsoft roadmap, right? And we always talk about this mindset they have of cloud first, mobile first. It sounds like you've kind of adjusted your offering really for that. Have you seen, what's the difference that you have seen? I think you said you've been in the channel now for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Since you've been here with people kind of going more into the cloud SaaS world. I'm kind of curious to hear what your company has done with that.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot more demand for the SaaS and with the pricing model to match. I think when I started, the bulk of our, and to be fair, I should also add, when I started, I was exclusively in the GP channel. And the GP channel operates a little differently than how Nav does. They have a little bit more GP. There's so many customizations and third-party add-ons people have used over time. There's, everyone has a very specific scenario that they need to be able to utilize, and so it was a little bit challenging in that market, working with all those different customers, finding the right fits. But now that we see folks moving to Business Central, I think frankly, it's the cleanness and the simplicity of Business Central in comparison. Users are able to get what they need with that. They're able to immediately see the value and how they can be able to report against it. And I think part of that's also because now a lot of their operational data can live in Business Central and not in those outside add-ons. And so, we've seen users in GP and Nav move over to Business Central. We've seen a lot of users opting for that SaaS model, and even seeing GP users kind of making that first step towards a cloud environment by moving their GP instance into the cloud as sort of this is phase 1 and phase 2 will move to Business Central kind of a thing. So we're seeing a lot of movement, and I think it's only going to continue to grow. Folks want to be able to access stuff in the cloud.
Well, yeah, we are a cloud solution provider, and we're obviously we've heard the message from Microsoft, right? The cloud is here. We do a lot with Azure, and that's great. And I think it was a year or two ago you guys went through an acquisition or were acquired by Insight Software, and your name went from Jet to Jet Global. But I know your website. So if people want to go to your website, and I know you have some great resources on your website, where would they go?
Yeah, so Insight Software is, you're absolutely right. They acquired Jet a little over about a year and a half ago. And so there's some other solutions on their website, but the Jet content is fantastic. We've had a team that's been building on the level of resources for years. And so if they go to insightsoftware.com, search for Jet, they're going to be able to find videos, sample reports. We have extensive knowledge base articles breaking down documentation around server requirements, installation, and even how to use the software and troubleshooting elements of your reports. And so there's a ton of great resources on the website, and in particular, those sample reports, we've been adding to those pretty regularly. So for longtime Jet users, you're going to find we actually added a whole new stack of pre-built reports for Nav and BC, geared around a lot of the questions we were seeing users have with the economic situation, where they wanted to be able to see cash flows broken out weekly. They wanted to better handle on their working capital, be able to stack track up their, days sales outstanding to payables outstanding, and get a handle on that side of their business, a little closer eye on it. And so definitely good resources for folks who are new to Jet and those who maybe just haven't been by in a while.
So if they own the product, and let's say they're one of our customers using Jet, and they went to your website, and there's some, you said there's some already pre-built reports, they could just download it right there and start using it. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, absolutely. We have over 100 for Nav and BC, and usually it's just jumping in design mode. There'll be directions on where to modify the report. Usually it's just updating a few cells in a column to tie in the appropriate chart of accounts, make sure it's speaking to your system correctly, and then those are ready to go. You can refresh them, send them to users, and they can get access to that data right away.
Very cool. Any other questions, Jeff, you want to ask Aaron that are business related?
I had all kinds of questions about the Pacific Northwest, but no, I think we've done a good job of covering topics related to Dynamics. I think for me there's been a shift in focus. It used to be that every nav user knew of Jet, right? Because the application sort of grew up with Dynamics NAV, and now that we've got a lot of Business Central companies that are brand new to the Microsoft Dynamics world, it's a transition to as they learn about the different tools that Microsoft has included in the product and the other applications that work with it. It is I think from that perspective we'll get a lot of interest from the new BC crowd into learning about Jet. And I think that's so. If they want to learn about Jet promotions, offers, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, I mean the best place if you're looking, want to know current pricing, know if there's any new sales or promotions going on, is to definitely get in touch with your Innovia rep. We're very close knit with your team, as you guys know, and you guys have a fantastic Jet practice. And so they'll also be able to reach out to me, of course. I'm very available. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I think in either way, they're going to be able to get the information they need. But yeah, I would say your team is going to be the first line of defense on getting Jet info.
Got it. Steve, anything else for you?
So if they decide that they want to invest in the product, they would contact their account manager, and if they are on Business Central, they would then after they purchase it, download the app, right? And then how long is a typical from the day that they say yes to the day they start using it? Is there a typical time frame for the Jet reports?
I would say usually we're able to get installs scheduled within a week, and then that install itself is only a matter of hours. I mean, again, there's the Excel add-in, and then there's the configuring of the data source connection to Business Central. And then from there, they're going to be able to start pulling data right away. And if they use those pre-built reports to get started, it's just going to help all the more. And then, of course, we're always going to recommend training because you want to know, you're investing in a tool. You want to make sure you're using it properly and know how to write reports that aren't just going to run fast, but are also going to be easy to modify, easy to customize. And I know your team is more than ready to support on that side as well.
Yeah, and you've done some webinars for us. Jet Global has, and we've done some. And actually on our website, if you go to our ISV page, you guys are the first ISV listed on our ISV page. Ooh. So you are at the top of the heap on that. So there's information on there. We have some additional resources listed on our website, a brochure, and there's a couple case studies that some of our customers have done that have really, really enjoyed your solution. There's even a video that you guys have done for us, so people can watch that. And that's at Innovia.com. And please, if you do have questions on it, you can reach out to your account manager, or if you're not an Innovia customer, you can reach out to Jeff or I, and we'll try to point you in the right direction if we can't get your questions answered on the website. So I know Jeff wants to go out and visit and do some skateboarding out there. So so he wants to know if you have an extra room if he comes out there to skateboard to stay.
I do have a room. The question I have is if you're going to pretend you know me at the park, if I'm wearing my knee pads and elbow pads out there.
When you're over 50, you are expected to wear an elbow pad. So we'll grandfather you in literally. So
There
we'll
we
allow
go.
you.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years since I've dropped in, so.
Yeah, for our listeners, there's a huge skateboard park out real close to Aaron. So, but Aaron, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to come join us. And as Aaron said, you can find him on LinkedIn. You want to tell people how to find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, name's Aaron Strawn. I have a great spelling of that name, so hopefully it's available on the Anovia website below this link where you're listening here. But you can find me there. My email is the same. It's aaron.strawn@insightsoftware.com. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn, though. Always happy to chat. And yeah.
All right, Aaron. Well, once again, thank you for your time. And Jeff, I think this podcast is over.
All right.